is Shane Cooper, head of digital advisory at Forvis Mazars. He's joining me from Johannesburg. We'll touch on the risk associated with xenophobia for economic integration in Africa and other issues around artificial intelligence. Great to have you on the show, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. It's great to be with you.
Fantastic. So before we get into artificial intelligence, I'm looking at what's playing out in South Africa right now and, the issues around xenophobia. What does this mean for AfCFTA? Can intra-Africa trade really scale, under these kind of tensions?
It's a very good question. And look, I may not be a trade economist. I would certainly argue that if I focus on where my value sits, one of the most important parts about making this a successful opportunity for the continent is to ensure that there is confidence in the system. I would argue that there needs to be closer alignment on how we deploy digital capabilities across the continent. Clearly, xenophobia, as you have highlighted, remains an issue. And I think organizations and our countries need to work better together to ensure that we have a better relationship, to ensure that we take full advantage of what's available to us.
Right, and we keep talking here in Africa about attracting more capital, foreign direct investment, FPI and all of that. But could this push African capital to leave Africa altogether?
Yeah, look, I think one thing is clear is that periods of uncertainty can make capital more defensive. I don't think there's a debate about that. But I don't think that the right conclusion is therefore that capital will leave Africa. I think the stronger conclusion is that Africa needs to become easier to invest in, easier to trade across, and easier to scale within. And for me, the answer there is better regional integration, better governance, and of course, a better visibility into where the risks are.
Now, definitely, we're hoping things settle right there in South Africa. And we'll definitely be getting more updates from there. But let's pivot now to artificial intelligence. The reports, some companies are ditching, long-term software contracts for shorter ones because they're, adopting, more affordable AI solutions at this point. So there's clearly strong confidence in AI adoption. But I've read your article. It seems you argue that readiness may be overstated. Where exactly are organizations falling short here?
Yeah, look, I think what we're seeing is that quite often enthusiasm is mistaken for readiness. There are some pilots that have been deployed. You've had some demos from vendors, and there's general executive excitement, but that's not always the same as being ready for scaling AI safely and profitably. And the real challenge very often is whether there has been a rigorous process that has been undertaken to identify which areas of the business are you looking to deploy artificial intelligence. In other words, are you clear about which use cases you are looking to solve for? That's one. And then two, once you have begun your deployment processes, are you very strict and rigorous around managing that deployment? And the classic adage always applies here is that you can't manage what you can't measure.
Exactly. Good one there. But what should boards and executives be critically assessing, in 2026 to ensure their AI investments are not just hype? We've had issues around, some investors, looking at some of these companies and how much they're looking to spend on AI, and those amounts are humongous.
Yes, and I would argue that boards have a significant responsibility here. They need to test AI in the same way that you test any material business capability. And normally the first question is strategic. So what business outcomes are you looking to achieve? And if AI is not tied to revenue growth, cost reduction, risk management, customer experience, or speed of execution, then it's probably just theater. And theater is a real risk with AI because I think we all accept that the hype around the world is material. And I think the second question is, as I alluded to earlier, is around use case discipline. So are we prioritizing a small number of high-value use cases? You should not be frittering around the edges. You'll be wasting money. You need to target the high-value use cases, and you need to make sure that you apply significant rigor in ensuring that the deployments are successful. And I think the last thing I would cover quite apart perhaps from the classic challenges of humans being afraid of what the technology is going to do for their jobs, is around the understanding of whether your data and your infrastructure is good enough. Artificial intelligence is not going to solve poor data. You still need to deal with the challenges of rubbish in, rubbish out. So the traditional disciplines of digital transformation are still very much relevant in the AI world.
Thank you so much for that. But for companies looking to scale AI responsibly, what are the key building blocks? Especially when it comes to data integrity and cyber security, especially governance.
Yep, absolutely. I think for us, what we're clear on is that the building blocks that matter, and the first one is around strategic clarity. You must know where your AI is being applied and why. Simple deployments of AI tools across the organization without critical oversight is a recipe for disaster. The second one is data integrity. If the underlying data is poor or fragmented, you will have challenges. The third one is governance. So, clarity around whether there are policies in place, defined accountabilities, risk thresholds. Those are classic traditional concepts that still are still very meaningful in an organization. The fourth one is cybersecurity and resilience. I mean, in no conversation around digital is worth having if you don't cover cybersecurity. You need to be very clear around where your attack surfaces are and how you're dealing with it. And then I think, for me, probably the trickiest one here is around people and adoption. You still very much are dealing with classic change management with the deployment of artificial intelligence, and I think more so than ever, because what we're seeing here is a tool that you're bringing into an organization that, for all intents and purposes, can feel as a risk to the knowledge worker. And if you think about most organizations around the world, there is normally a significant number of knowledge workers in those organizations, and resistance to change is material.
All right, thank you so much. It was great having you. Shane Cooper, Head of Digital Advisory for Readiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much.